Hi, I'm Cecil McNeil, a writer filmmaker. Welcome back to my blog. So, with Echoes of Mercy, one of the things I keep getting asked a lot is like, why did you write a story about Native Americans? You're African, write what you know. And I hate that term because write what you know just means be in a box. Because me as a black African woman must only write, black African women things. And no, I don't agree with that. I think if you're passionate about something, then you can write about whatever you want. After all, we're all from Earth, and the world is your oyster. So yeah, I know that these days representation is important, especially representing who you are. But I think if you're passionate enough and willing to do the research of a particular place, I think it's okay. After all, one of my favorite African writers is Alexander McCall Smith, and he's not even African. He's a white man from Scotland. But if you read his books, you'll feel like you're living in Botswana. You'll feel like you're seeing everything. And that's because he loves that country. And I think it's okay. It doesn't matter where you're from. As long as you honestly love what you're writing about, it'll show through your work. So for this reason, I wrote a preface in the book so that in case anyone wants to find out why a Nigerian girl would write about Native Americans. Here we go. This story first came to me one Sunday afternoon in 2003. I was 13 at the time. I was home alone sick with a fever. My family had left me and went to church. I was lying on the living room sofa when, I guess in hindsight, I imagined hearing a knock on the door. Till this day, I don't know if I actually walked to the door or if I imagined it. Nevertheless, when I opened the door, Raymond was standing there. He was threadbare, dressed in all black, with a black piece of cloth around his eyes. He was weary and covered in scars. I felt sorry for him immediately, but I was a bit apprehensive at his presence at my door. He smiled at me and solemnly said hello. I knew then I had nothing to dread. He wanted me to tell his story. I couldn't stop thinking about him after that day. I wondered what his life was like, what had brought upon all his suffering. I carried him with me everywhere I went, in my heart and in my mind. It wasn't until the next year, 2004, I was 14 at the time, that I finally put pen to paper, literally. I felt very proud of myself. I was a writer. Through the various pioneer books I consumed at the time, I had fallen deeply in love with Native Americans, Red Indians, as they were often called in those books. But the stories I read were from the emigrating traveler's point of view, and so the Red Indians were often portrayed as savages, attacking the wagons of the peaceful pioneers, scary people who delighted in scalping the other. I didn't like that one bit. I found myself instead fascinated by them, their culture, their identity. I wanted to know more about them. I associated strongly with them and wanted to live in their world. And so it was very natural for me that my very first novel was about these people that I loved so much. Even though I hadn't set foot in the West at that point, nor did I have access to the internet or to non-fiction books chronicling their history, it was no concern to this Nigerian girl. I just wrote from my heart. I handwrote the first draft of Echoes of Mercy. It was 400 pages long. When I was finally done with it in 2006, I proudly showed my parents my first book. My dad teased me for handwriting it, that who did I think was going to read it when my handwriting was so poor, barely legible. He told me to type it, and then he bought me my first laptop. Thanks, Dad. My mom read a bit of the story after I was done typing it. She laughed that I thought Red Indians were the historical version of modern-day Indians. Ware's name used to be Ranjan. She explained to me that there were two people groups on two different continents. So for my next draft, I started to do serious research. I initially told myself I was going to write a generic Native American story without getting too bogged down with specific details, like the intricacies of the different tribes, location, time period, correlating my story with actual Western migration history. I learned the hard way that this would be impossible, especially after moving to America for college and taking US history. While living in America, I befriended a number of Native American people and learned a lot about their culture firsthand. I even got to attend a Native American powwow, and I was blown away. After this, I knew I had to clamp down on the specifics and deepen my research. This was excruciating because whenever I thought I was finally done with my story, a new era in the story would come to my attention and I would have to start the process all over again. Every time this happened, I would feel like crying my eyes out or just giving up on the story, but I couldn't for the life of me. The story utterly consumed my being. When I turned 20, initially I despaired that the book would no longer be published by a teenage author, but in hindsight, I'm thankful. I have written over 100 drafts of this story in the 13 years it has taken me to complete this book. And yet, I am very nervous that the book is being published, though I know in my spirit it is time, because I no longer live and breathe this story. If I continue to work on Echoes of Mercy at this juncture in my life, I will ruin the story. One thing I truly appreciate about this book is that my teenage mind produced it. I like the subtle sweetness and underlying innocence of the book. If I write it now as a full-fledged adult, I fear that my now cynical nature will taint the purity of this book, and I'm extremely proud of the book the way it is. I appreciate all the years spent living and reliving the lives of these characters. I have shed every tear Raymond has. I have endured his hardship, suffered his loneliness, and drowned with him in the bitter agony of his pain. And I know without a doubt I have done his story justice. I honestly can't believe this book is finally getting published. I wasn't sure it ever would, for the story seemed never ending. I've been writing the story for so long, I can't imagine never having to revisit it again. The feeling is surreal. But I'm exceedingly happy to finally drop the pen, metaphorically, and close this chapter of my life. It has been such a fantastic journey. I regret nothing of the experience. I am tremendously grateful to God for seeing me through this long and tedious journey, and I hope that you are truly blessed by this story. It is bittersweet saying goodbye, but it really isn't a goodbye because Raymond lives forever on these pages and in my heart. Thanks for watching, guys, and thanks for all your support. Please like and subscribe and let me know what you think in the comments below. Remember, if you're interested in any of the copies of the books, just DM me and I'll get that to you. Take care. Bye.